All right, let's stay on course. All right, so
That's
I want to throw this your way, guys. See what you think. How is it going to affect dentistry, if it will, in general? But it seems like the U.S. population is getting older, um, and right now in 2022, the median age was almost 40 years old. And so I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this? Even if we need to spend any time on this, but just out of curiosity, does it have any effect? Ashley, what do you think?
Don't start with me.
Okay, Brian, what do you think about this?
I would say, as evidenced by this podcast, it certainly doesn't help with maturity. I don't think it has any effect, other than maybe on pediatric dentists. It's the article is just kind of saying that it's almost saying when you read into it that there's just less people being born, so the median skews up as people age.
It's not that people are living longer; it's that millennials stopped having children.
No, it is, and it's because more people are going to school and educated and getting jobs, so they're having kids later. So this would probably change. I mean, you look at how many people, kind of around our ages are really just getting around to having kids.
I feel like I'm the only one on this call who has a kid.
You are the only one on this call.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is like Tiger had a kid and then started this podcast, and it's like he adopted 3 more children.
And Aaron has 2 cats, so I take that.
So so to me, as soon as I hear that, the first things I think are, there's going to be a lot more work, because you eat on teeth for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. You need more repair and work. You drive the car, you've got to replace the tires, got to do maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. But the people that normally take those jobs in a dental office, there are not so many of those people coming around anymore. So your hiring costs are going to be higher. It's going to be harder to find people, et cetera, et cetera. And then I heard a report today on the news as I was driving around. They're saying they're starting to try to keep older workers in the workplace longer, because there's no one coming up behind them to replace them and to force them out. And they're actually giving, they have, maternity leave. They're actually having grandparent leave, unpaid, for up to a year after a grandson or a granddaughter is born, in order to try to make things more friendly for the grandparent to stay and keep working, because it costs so much. And then the other thing they said that was really interesting, they were talking about the economy, and they said they're seeing worker hoarding or employee hoarding. And the idea being, we don't need them, but it's too expensive to go out and get them again. So we're not going to cut them loose. And so we're just going to hang on to all our employees, and we'll pay them whatever we have to pay, and we'll give them raises, even though it doesn't make sense business-wise, because we think that things are going to turn up in a little bit, and we don't want to have to go back and go through the cycle again. So I found all that to be really interesting.
It's like, in my head, it's like I see Ben Stiller from that movie when he's like at the old person's home. What was that movie? And he's like, do your fingers hurt? Like, start sewing again. To all the old people in there. Come on, someone's got to remember this. It's like grandparent hoarding.
I think Jill.
What was it, Jill? Jill, what was?
Oh, was that Happy Gilmore? Yeah, it was the quilting sweatshop in Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, Tiger, you're gonna want to splice that into the podcast right here.
Let me make a mark clip here. Well, interesting, but what kind of dentistry is going to look like if that's the trend? Like all on 4s or all on X's?
Well, is it though? If this generation, it has taken better care, had in general better hygiene, dental hygiene than previous generations. I don't know if that's true though. Am I just making that up?
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't say there's anything to statistically support that. What I think you'll have is a much higher educated patient base, which I enjoy personally.
I guess to that point though, Brian, if they're better educated, they're probably taking better care of their mouths, so that's not getting
incorrect assumption.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, Ashley, let's take you and I, for example. we are very educated. I mean, you're more than I am, obviously. And then you're trying to take care of yourself better. But once in a while, you go to Starbucks, you order something, and the amount of sugar and all of these things that we drink and consume, even like take some kombucha. Like I thought one kombucha was incredibly healthy, and then I looked at the amount of sugar; it was like 40 grams, right? And you're like, how is that possible? I feel like our generation, we're just eating sugar by not a spoon, but I don't know, like a shovel.
I don't. Yeah, maybe that's possible. I guess, but I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm in my own little Colorado Boulder bubble. Like the Boulder bubble is real. Not that I'm in Boulder, but near Boulder, and that's like it's like the culture is not eating sugar, for example. Like everything has agave in it. You know what I mean? But I mean it's still sugar, but it's
still gives you cavities.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other thing, Tiger, you have to remember, as people get older, they start taking more medications. More medications tend to dry your mouth out. So they could be doing the same level of home care and start getting cavities again because all those sugars are being concentrated because of the reduction in salivary flow. So now you've got someone that's been taking care of their mouth all the time. They've been eating on restorations for a long time. So they're wearing through crown and bridge work. They have fillings that are breaking down or teeth that are breaking down. They're getting decay. So it's not just all on forework, although there certainly will be that, but it's also just maintenance of what they've had before and keeping that stuff squared away going forward. Because, I mean, every day, you ask a patient, you look and you can tell they're not flossing. Like, hey, you flossing? Well, I could be better. And it's like we've had this conversation for 10 years. And the getting better is not really happening. We're starting to swap some of our patients over onto water picks and that sort of thing, which seems to be, they're at least getting in there and getting stuff cleaned out. But getting older, it's a maintenance issue, and there's going to be more of them, and the medications they're taking are making things worse.
I would say also, so to your point, Ashley, I have never seen a direct correlation between like someone's education level and their dental understanding. Like the general public knows either nothing or next to nothing about dentistry. And it comes with all sorts of like old wives' tales and myths and, this, that, and the other. But the other, we dentists will always be fighting that. So no matter how educated they are, they still don't know about dental health or dental procedures or really anything in the dental world. But then you look at older individuals and, everyone's living longer. But I mean, you see people, they get to like 70 and they're like, I don't need to fix it. I'm not going to live that long. It's like, no. Statistically, you have another 20 plus years nowadays. So it's also just like the change in dentistry might not be the change in dentistry, like teeth are teeth, mouth are mouth, like you know what to do. If the country could work on the education component, much like educating people about their insurance, I think that's when you see the big changes.
It's funny.
For better.
Agreed. And that makes sense now too. And I take back everything I said because a quick Google search led me down a hole of why millennials have worse teeth than their parents. Millennials are terrible at keeping their teeth clean. And 500 other articles along that vein. So
it's really interesting. Like in LA, and this was probably 10 plus years ago, there was like all of the children of like the elite and the crazy rich all started coming down with these dental problems just on their front teeth. And their front teeth were just rotting out. And they're like, what is going on? Like, these are the children of like insanely intelligent and rich people. And it's because the parents weren't necessarily the ones taking care of the kids. It was the work. And the work all came from the northern areas of Mexico. And in the northern areas of Mexico, when you give a kid a treat, you take a slice of lemon, you dip it in sugar, stick it in between your front teeth and suck on it. And so even the parents were like, what's wrong with it is delicious. But it's like, it's so interesting because people were looking at them and you're like, dude, these kids are like, in $50,000 a year private schools and they're in second grade. And how could this be happening? And it's always a bit more multifactorial, I think.
That is so interesting. It's
fascinating. I'm glad that you found these articles that don't connect because it's like
my thesis.
But we all want to assume that, but essentially, like that's just not the case. And I mean, Aaron is right. Like how many times we hear people floss, and it's like, I can beat around the bush all day long to tell people I haven't had a cavity in like 5 years because I started flossing twice a day, and people are like, oh my god, that's so cool. And then people move on with their own life, like right. So it's life. It's difficult, and then they don't do it. So
they're like, that's not what I heard on YouTube. You're supposed to chew on sunflower stalks.
Right.
It was a TikTok. It must be
coconut
true.
Oil.
Yeah.
Coconut oil. Coconut oil.
Oh, goodness.
Go back to Boulder.
I mean, I had a patient the other day in their late 50s, early 60s, full mouth veneers, implants, the whole 9 yards, and hadn't been taken care of. I mean, we're basically redoing everything. But they didn't even teach them like how to take care of it, or he didn't get the message. And it's like everything was decayed. It's like we had to start over. You know, unfortunately, there was enough tooth to start over. But, you know, just because you have a bunch of money and you can afford dental care doesn't mean that you're taking care of it afterwards.
My dream is to have a bunch of money, be around dentists, and not needing any dental work to be done. That's my dream.
We'll find a way to get it. We'll find a way to get that money.
To like flex in front of Brian and be like, yo, these are all natural. Don't need an implant or anything.